Are you ready to start piecing together the last section of our vintage boardwalk quilt? Hey Kimberbell friends, Cristin here, and today we are going to work on our last section, section 5 for the vintage boardwalk quilt. So for this one, we have 10 border blocks that we need to complete before we start piecing it all together. So let's get started looking at what we need for today. So the first one, this is number 54, and this is the red houndstooth fabric. And we're going to cut this to 4.5 by 4.5, and as always, backed with fusible stabilizer, 4.5 by 4.5 cut size, fabric cut size, and that means that we want our batting to be 5 by 5. 5 by 5 batting, red houndstooth, 4.5 by 4.5. So for this one, I've been really wanting to do the banner somewhere in here, and I think the banner looks cuter on a block that's vertical rather than like lengthwise. It kind of looks different, the quilting. So I've chosen it for this one. It's kind of a busy fabric for it, but I think it'll be really cute. So do what works for you, but I'm gonna do, it's called Celebration 1 and in 4 by 4. For this fabric. So number 54 in Celebration 1, and I'm doing it vertical. All right, so number 55 is the green Carnival fabric, and we're going to cut this one to 2.5 by 4.5. And as always, we want our batting to be a 1/2 inch larger, so that means that our batting is going to be 3 by 5 for this block. And for the quilting, I've chosen Food 1. That's the one that's got cotton candy and something else in it. I don't remember what the other item is. I always seem to forget that. But anyway, it's a kind of busier quilting, and this is a busy fabric, but I thought it just goes together. I think it'll be really cute. So for the quilting on this one, it's going to be 2 by 4, and I'm using Food 1. And that is number 55. All right, and then on this one, we are going to use the red houndstooth again, and this one is 2.5 by 4.5, as always backed with fusible stabilizer, 2.5 by 4.5, and then our batting is going to be 3 by 5. And I've chosen Insects 2 for this one. It's the dragonflies. I thought that would be really cute. It's going next to a soda bottle, if I recall. So 2 by 4 dragonflies, it's called Insect 2 for this one. That's number 56. All right, so number 57, this one, it's a white fabric. So many of our fabrics are busy and it's hard to pick a quilting design. And this one, I was like, oh yay, we got a plain fabric. We can do a really decorative quilting design, but really we can't because we're gonna have to smoosh it on this one. So let's talk about what we need first. So on this, it's the white with red dots backed with fusible stabilizer, and we're gonna cut this to 3.5 by 4.5. So that means that we want our batting to be, 4 by 5 for our batting, 1/2 inch larger than our fabric. 3.5 by 4.5, 4 by 5. All right, and then the quilting on this, since it's a different size, Kimberbell doesn't have quilting for this one, so we're just going to smoosh it. We've done it on several of them. It's easy to do. You can do it on your machine. You can do it on embroidery software. Super easy to do, but it's a little bit harder to choose a quilting design when we have to smoosh it because that will distort the design. So we've done it on a few, and we've always chosen like wavy or even geometric. It looks really cute when you smoosh it. We did wavy 2, that looked fine smooshed. So like I said, it's hard. If you choose like the flowers, the cute flowers or hearts or anything like that, you're going to smoosh it and it's just not going to look super great. So what I decided on this one is, instead of a real decorative one, I chose wavy 2. We did it before with smooshing it, and it came out really good. So we're going to do wavy 2, and we're going to smoosh it to 3 by 4. So keep in mind, when I say 3 by 4, the actual design is going to be 3.5 by 4.5, because remember, we've got that 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. So when you're smooshing it, you want the size of the whole design to be 3.5 by 4.5. But if you click on just the design, just the quilting part of it, That's the part that we want to be 3 by 4. And you really don't have to worry about that, but the design is called 3 by 4, and yet it actually measures 3.5 by 4.5. So when you smush it, just smush it to 3.5. All right, hopefully that makes sense. And we've done it before, so you should be fine. And you can always ask questions, and Cristin creates the Facebook group. Everybody's so helpful. So, you know, feel free to ask questions. Don't get caught up on something that you don't know how to do, and just ask. We're all there for you. All right, so that's number 57, and like I said, 3 by 4 quilting. So on number 58, we've got this cute swimsuit fabric again, and we're gonna do this one in 3.5 by 4.5, the cut size of this, backed with fusible stabilizer. So our batting is gonna be 4 by 5 for this one, all right? Always a little bit bigger, 1/2 inch bigger, at least 1/2 inch. It really doesn't matter as long as it's bigger, so that, because you're gonna trim it anyway in the design. All right, so 3.5 by 4.5 batting, 4 by 5. The quilting on this one is going to be 3 by 4. So again, this is one that we're going to smush a little bit. And what I've chosen for this one is wavy 1. I've done wavy 1 on all the ones that have this fabric just because it goes really well. It's that thicker wavy, and with the swimsuits, it's just cute. So wavy 1 in horizontal, and we're going to smush it to 3 by 4. 3 by 4 for the quilting. Again, that means 3.5 is the actual design. We already went over that, so you should be good. 3 by 4 on the quilting for number 58. All right, and then we've got a bunch that are to go with the birds. So the first one is number 59, and it's this brown fabric with lines all over it. And we're gonna cut that to 3.5 by 5.5. And that means that we want our batting to be 4 by 6. And then for this one, we're going to smush it again. And I've chosen geometric 1. And I already put it on the software and smushed it up to see how that distorts it and what it does. And it looks great. So that's what I've chosen. You can use whatever works for you. This is like the posts where the birds are standing on the posts, and this is the post. So I thought geometric looked really good. I'm choosing that. So I am using the 4 by 6 geometric 1, and then I'm smushing it down to 3 by 5. And it's not just smushing the middle. So if we're going from 4 by 6 to 3 by 5, we're changing all of it just a little bit. So you want your final design to be 3 by 5, but when you're smushing it, it'll be 3.5 by 5.5. All right, actual file size, 3.5 by 5.5. That's number 59, geometric 1, and I'm using the 4 by 6 and smushing it down to 3.5 by 5.5, 3 by 5. All right, number 60 is the gray. Can't really see that, gray with white dots on it, and backed with fusible stabilizer. And the cut size on this is 2.5 by 4.5. So that means we want our batting to be 3 by 5. Batting 3 by 5, 2.5 by 4.5. And then for this one, the quilting, I'm using lines 2. That's the one that's the spooky. So keep in mind that this goes with these. Remember when we made these birds, and those of us that chose these spooky lines is what I call them, but it's just kind of sky, and we did it in blue thread. These are going to go with it. We've got a few ones to go with it. They're all going to be bunched together. So whatever quilting you chose, I would keep it the same if I were you. I'm going to keep it with the wavy 2. So on this one, this 2.5 by 4.5 fabric, we're going to quilt with 2 by 4 and the lines 2 in horizontal. So that means it's going to go this way, lines 2, horizontal. All right. So I think we're good on that one. Number 60. And then number 61 is this brown stars. And we're going to cut that to 2.5 by 4.5. And that means that we want our batting to be 3 by 5. And for this one, same as the others, these are those posts that the birds are going to stand on, so I'm going to keep them all the same. And so I'm doing geometric 1 on this. And that's going to be in 2 by 4. So notice I'm using pieces for my stabilizer, the fusible stabilizer. You can do that if you've got a stash of extra pieces. This is a good way to use them up on these little blocks. So 2x4 in geometric 1. That's for number 61. For number 62, we're back to the gray with white dots, backed with fusible stabilizer. This is going to be 2.5 by 5.5 for the fabric, 2.5 by 5.5. Now on this one, if you look at the back of the guide that shows all the blocks, it's going to be this way. It's listed as 2.5 by 5.5, but it's really 5.5 by 2.5 because this one is going sideways. So the reason I point that out is because when we do our quilting, you don't want quilting that's going to go this way because the fabric is going this way. So you want your fabric to make sure to be going horizontally. So on this one, 2.5 by 5.5, our batting is going to be 3 by 6. And our quilting, we need 2 by 5. So we're going to smoosh it again. So this one, I did the 2 by 6. I chose 2 by 6, and then I'm just smooshing it. So you're smooshing it this way because we want it to be 2 by 5. It's really 5 by 2. Sorry, that's confusing, but it's listed as the opposite way. So horizontally, lines 2 in 2 by 5. And just remember that this one, the fabric goes sideways. All right, last one. So for number 63, oh my gosh, 63. So we're going to use the brown stripes fabric, and it is going to be cut to 3.5 by 6.5. Sorry, I keep looking down, but I had to write a lot of notes on this one. So 3.5 by 6.5 for our fabric, as always backed with fusible stabilizer. And our batting for this one is going to be 4 by 7. And then same thing, geometric on all of these brown with the stripes. It's the post that the birds are standing on. So I'm doing geometric 1 for all of them. And we want this one to be 3 by 6. So again, there isn't a 3 by 6. So I chose the 4 by 6 design, and I'm just smooshing it. All right, this one stands this way if I recall, and we're just going to smoosh it to make it a 4 by 6 quilting design. And it's really easy to do. If I saw that some people haven't finished this part, and I'm hoping it's not because of the smooshing, because I showed you can easily do this on your machine, super easy. I showed you what buttons and everything. So if you have any questions, just ask. It's not a hard thing to do at all. And that is our last border block. So 10 blocks today. As I mentioned, remember that a lot of these blocks are going to go with the birds that we did earlier, and we did whatever quilting design you chose. I chose spooky too, and I used blue thread. So I'm going to keep that going with the same on these gray blocks that we're going to do today. Okay, I'm tired. Are you tired? All right, so that is for section 5. Once we get all of those border blocks quilted, we'll piece it together, and I'll do that in photos with comments on what you need to know. But we're all good. That's section 5. Let's do it.